Hard nothing.
Just for a minute.
It's a big old thing, isn't it? I want to begin tonight by asking if those of y'all at the back of the room can hear me okay. And the clink of glasses and eyes. Thank you. So very grateful for this award. There are a lot of things in my life I'm grateful for, and not the least of which is the camaraderie and the friendship of the folks in this room, this great organization that we're all a part of. Thankful to my family, my wife Nancy, my sons Nathan and Seth. My special guests this evening, Judge Ken Adair, Billy Coyle. His dad, John, won this award some years ago and called me today and said he was unable to be here, but he was sending Billy in his place. I appreciate it. And Jackie, of course, thank you for that great introduction. And our friend Jim Buxton, who has been, Jackie and Jim have been my comrades at arms more than once, and I'm very grateful for you. Earlier today, I was looking at the list of the winners of this award, and it's like a hall of fame for our profession. Some great lawyers on that list and some heroes of mine. And looking at that list, it's very hard for me to feel like I belong in that company and to feel like I truly deserve this award. Now, I'm going to accept it, don't worry. And my rationale for that is that, you know, as a criminal defense lawyer, we catch hell for enough stuff that's not our fault. And you get a little chance to even things out once in a while, like it says, okay. I want to talk to you tonight, and I'm going to be brief. There's a reason why they put me next to last, I think. I'm going to be brief. There's a couple of reasons, one of which I'm not even going to talk about. Gave some thought earlier today about what we do and why we do it. You know, what we do, we're a special kind of lawyers. People come to us in the worst moments of their lives. And they're desperate and they're in terrible trouble. And they come to us and they trust us. They put their faith in us. And they count on us. I'm thinking today about a word that occurred to me earlier today, payday. You know, it's hard to make a living at this kind of work. But there's a special kind of reward that we get that others don't get. I have classmates. I got out of law school in 1982. I have classmates that have become partners in the greatest firms in this part of the country. And they've authored books and they've become fabulously wealthy doing civil law and patent law and divorces and probate law. They made enormous amounts of money. And the thing that occurs to me when I think of them is I feel so sorry for them. Because they don't know what a real payday is. A real payday is when that mother comes to you and puts her arms around you with tears in her eyes and says, "Thank you for saving my son." It's when that client comes to you and says, "I'm just dropping by, but I wanted to show you this." And it's a picture of a baby, and they say, "This is my new daughter. Wouldn't have her if I was doing 50 years in penitentiary right now, thank you." And payday is that cheesy Christmas card that you get from that client that remembers you, and it's the little cheap 25-cent card that says, "Thank you, you saved my ass." Merry Christmas. It's a special thing, and nobody gets to know what that's like except us. We have special challenges. You know, we have the clients that don't appreciate us and the clients that don't believe in us. We have, you know, I'm thinking right now of a colleague of mine from the Trial Lawyers College who represented a guy in Houston who was involved in a high-speed police chase and got in a car wreck. He was drunk and 2 people died. She's defending this guy. And she forwarded some of the emails and the messages that she got in there were the foulest, meanest things you ever read in your life. We are vilified and we're castigated, and people say the awful things to us. Chad Moody and I, a few years ago, tried the Caden Wooten guy down in Pontotoc County, the Caden Wooten case. We had death threats in that case. We had to stay in a duck hunting shack outside of town for our own safety. And I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking probate lawyers don't have that kind of problem. I used to do a lot of divorce work. The only time I ever got shot at was over a divorce case. But, we have such a special job to do. What we do is, we have these rights. We have the right to trial by jury and jury of our peers and assistance of counsel and due process of law and all the other rights that we hold dear. But none of those rights matters without us. Those rights have been purchased for us at a terrible, awful price. If you don't believe me, go to Normandy and look at the white marble markers lined up perfectly in a row, thousands and thousands and thousands of them, every one of them a hero. Those rights have been purchased for us at a terrible cost, but they mean nothing without people who are willing to go into court and stand up and fight. The case that Sam and I just finished this week was mentioned, and that poor guy didn't even care what happened. And because of that, the government was willing to use that as an opportunity to just beat him. To him, to them, he was just a victim. And we could have looked at what he was going through and said, well, it's not our problem, and we could have crossed along to the other side of the road and passed on by. But it sure seems like to me, I remember reading somewhere where that's not what we're supposed to do. Because sometimes, folks, it's not about just the result. The fight is about the fight. There's one thing, and one thing only, that a bully is afraid of, and that is somebody who will stand up and hit him in the mouth. And that's what we do. And a lot of times we wind up getting whipped over. But it's the right thing to do. And we alone, among the lawyers, have the opportunity to stand up, and as Davy Crockett said, we get the chance to hit a lick for what's right. And sometimes it is the outlaw, and that's true. But we get the kind of payday that no one else gets. Now, this is a special time in our country's history. Some years ago, I had the chance to talk to this group, and I said, there's never been a time in this country's history, at least not the recent history of this country, where dedicated, courageous criminal defense lawyers have been more important to the future of this country. Some things have changed since then. And we have been, those of you, there's many of you out there that are of a certain age as I am, you remember when the war on crime started and the war on drugs started, and we're going to get tough on crime. For a generation, decades, there have been those of us who have stood up and stood against that. And we felt like the voice crying in the wilderness. But unlike the voice in the wilderness that's referenced in the Bible, we're not talking about the coming of the Lord. We're talking about the fight against the war on drugs and the war on crime, which incidentally, neither one of those things was ever anything more than a war on poor people and a war on the oppressed. Don't ever pretend there was anything about anything more than that. But the other thing is, we haven't been the voice crying in the wilderness saying, make straight the way of the Lord. We've been saying, this is bullshit. And it is. But this is what's so special about this time that we're living in right now. Things have begun to change. Many of you know the columnist George F. Will, a Republican apologist. He's a commentator for, he's self-appointed too. He's a columnist for the Washington Post. And no one is ever going to accuse this guy of being a lefty or a pinko. Even he came out last year with not one but 3 separate columns about the craziness of our criminal court system. And notice I did not say our criminal justice system, because I refuse to use that that term because there's damn little justice in it. Maybe the day will come when I can use that with a good conscience. He wrote a column about over-criminalization. This is my favorite thing. It's called Everything's a Crime. He wrote a column, and my eyes almost fell out of my head when I read this. He wrote a column called The Slow Death of the Death Penalty, making not one but 3 good conservative arguments against the death penalty. George Will almost headed for the hills. I thought it was the apocalypse. Times are changing, and we have spoken out, and we have fought so long and so hard against this get tough on crime. It's all about toughness. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, most of the tough guys I knew weren't very smart. But now things are finally changing, and we've been through the long, hard, dark night, and the dawn is finally coming. The tide is finally turning. Our own state legislature, and you won't find a bigger bunch of rednecks in this country. Give me an amen. Somebody, this bunch of yahoos has finally started to come around and think, maybe we should not lock up everybody. That's maybe not a very smart thing to do.
Have them call the Oklahoma Justice Society.
There you go. And of course, the problem is, of course, with them it's all about the money. They don't care about what's right and wrong and what we ought to do, and we're going to call ourselves good Christians, and maybe we ought to love our neighbor a little more. They don't give a damn about any of that. It's all about the money, but I'm not complaining because the end result is the same. We need to redouble our efforts. Times are changing. The tide is turning. The dawn is coming. But this is no time to slack off now. This is no time to say, well, we can take it easy now because we got it all licked. No. Now is the time we need to fight harder than ever. Now is the time that every single person in this room needs to stand up. Stand up. We need to saddle up and try those cases that, maybe in the past we thought, I could try this case, but there's not enough money in it. We need to remember what that real payday is. And we need to stand up for those people who can't stand up for themselves. And remember that there are so many of our clients that have never had anyone stand up for them in their entire lives, and we get to be that person. What a great honor that is. It's terrifying to try a case. It's scary if you care enough. I've been doing it for almost 33 years now. It scares the hell out of me every time. As that great American philosopher John Wayne once said, courage is being scared to death but settling up anyway. And a good friend of mine that I know through the trial of college, a very wise man, Don Clarence, has once said, without fear there is no courage. All of us, if everybody in this room finds the courage to try 2 cases next year, think about what a difference that would make. And 2 is the minimum, by the way. This organization has over 500 members. What if every single one of us committed to try at least 1 case next year? Prosecutors, and they're whining about we don't have the money. They wouldn't know what to do about it. And there are still challenges, this so-called war on terror that we have. There are those out there who would tempt us to give away our liberty to get security, and that's a bad deal every time. And our state legislature, in another spectacular display of amazing redneckery, has decided that the criminal court system is now a revenue generator. And the idea there is we're going to finance our lunacy by squeezing more money out of people that already don't have enough. I want to close with this. Remember what's entrusted to us. Those sacred rights, and I said earlier, they're purchased at a terrible cost. At Lexington, and Bunker Hill, and the Cowpens, and Gettysburg, and Antietam, and Shiloh, and Belleau Wood, and the Flanders Field, and Iwo Jima, and Anzio, and Normandy. Those rights have been purchased in the freezing bitter cold of a Korean winter and the blazing heat of a Vietnamese summer.